Hey everyone, my name is Ventra and welcome to my channel. It's been a while since I last posted, but I wanted to have a discussion about Quiet on Set. And if you haven't watched it, then this video might be confusing. But Quiet on Set is a mini docuseries that interviews former staff and child actors from Nickelodeon. They talked about the abuse and toxic work environment they had to go through by other staff members. And I want you guys to let me know what you think at the end of the video. So, from what we know, most of the parents and adults on set failed to protect the child actors. Tracy, who is Brian Hearn's mom, and Joe, who is Drake Bell's dad, has gotten recognition for protecting their kids. But I think it's debatable to put Tracy and Joe in the same category. Tracy did express how she was upset when her son had to play a racially charged character and how Dan directed inappropriate scenes. But when she addressed it with Brian's agent, she was told to shut up and do it for Brian, which she did. And now with Joe, him and Tracy basically did the same thing, but even after Joe spoke with producers about Brian Peck's actions, they accused him of being discriminatory against Brian Peck. Joe still continued to do everything he could to protect Drake, and it wasn't until Brian Peck fed Drake and his mom's lies about Joe that nobody likes him and he's stealing Drake's money, and then Joe lost his position of being Drake's manager. I don't want to completely dismiss Tracy because I do believe she had internal conflict because she wanted to speak out, but she didn't want to ruin Brian's career. It was so sad just listening to Drake try to explain what happened to him, and he looked like he was in pain trying to talk about it. And I was so mad when Drake's mom didn't take Joe more seriously when he told her to never leave Drake alone with Brian Peck, and of course she did. And I know myself and other people definitely cried, and I just hope Drake continues to heal. So I was blown away when Brian Peck casually said to Kyle Sullivan, who was 14 at the time, that the clown painting in his garage happened to be from John Wayne Gacy, which is insane. And then Kyle said Brian kept photos and letters from him next to his nightstand. And what also gets me is that he showed the parents at the barbecue the picture of the painting, and they did nothing about it. And I feel like he was comfortable showing the parents because he knew nobody was going to report him or speak up about this because then their kids' careers would be done. And Brian Peck knew how much power he held with not only Nickelodeon but the parents too. I'm so happy that the 41 people who sent letters to the court defending Brian Peck are being exposed. After I watched the docuseries, I went on James Marsden Instagram and was watching people share how disgusted they were by him for writing a letter. And now, since those celebrities were exposed, they're apologizing left and right. And to me, this is obviously very performative, and if they were actually sincere, then they would have apologized to Drake a long time ago. But the fact is that they didn't and they still don't care, but their career is on the line. They can either be silent, which will not help them at all, or they can give a public apology and hope that everyone moves on. One celebrity that didn't surprise me for writing a letter was Alan Thicke, and now I understand the connection to why his son Robin Thicke is the way that he is. If you guys don't remember or didn't know, Robin Thicke made a song called Blurred Lines like back in 2012, and it was basically supporting RAPE culture, and the lyrics speak for themselves. I read an article on Deadline, and Drake said some of the people who wrote the letters went on to work on Drake and Josh. That is so disgusting, but it's also a sad reality for not only child actors, but for children in general who experienced abuse and nobody believing them, and sometimes they even support the abuser. Next, I want to talk about MJ. The whole time she was talking, it just kept going downhill. Like, I don't understand why she didn't think more deeply about why her mom didn't want her to be a child actor. Like, first of all, she was a lawyer for Hollywood actors, so she has definitely seen a lot. But instead, MJ had resentment towards her. And it's concerning how a lot of people like myself could see right away that her mom was just protecting her, but MJ couldn't see that. And she still didn't see it until after something happened to her daughter, Brandy. And I feel like she was just living vicariously through her when she became a child actor on The Amanda Show. A huge red flag for me is when Jason Handy gave out his contact information to the parents and the kids. The parents make sense, but the kids, I would have been like, why does he need the kid's number? Why do they need to contact him? And then a week later, Brandy told MJ that Jason wanted to start emailing her, and MJ didn't see anything wrong with that. Like, be for real, a grown man wants to talk to your 11-year-old child. What could they possibly talk about? And now that I'm like thinking about it, he was just the PA who had a show for the kids. Like, he wasn't writing the script, he wasn't directing the scene, so there's really nothing to talk about. And then when something bad happened, MJ didn't want to report it to the police because she said she didn't want to be labeled as a bad parent. Well, now you're really a bad parent because you didn't report it knowing that he is going to continue to work with kids. And then the way MJ was trying to sound so redeeming when she let Brandy testify against Jason Handy in court, which, by the way, would have never happened if the police didn't call her, telling her that they found evidence of child pornography and tokens he kept of the children that he interacted with, which included Brandy. I understood, I understand she could have turned the police away, but I felt like she was more focused on trying to redeem herself. I've seen a lot of people talk about, where's Brandy? Is she still with us? Did she change her identity? Did she cut off her mom? But honestly, it's not for us to know. If they wanted to make it known, they would have said it in the docuseries, and I feel like we should just respect their privacy. I read a couple comments on TikTok as to why didn't the other kids notice anything weird about Jason Handy. But we need to acknowledge that predators sometimes don't abuse all the children they're around. Giovanni, who was around the same age as Brandy, had no problems with him. She said he was kind and they would do Bible study together. Predators, they sometimes calculate their moves and try to take advantage of a child who is vulnerable. I've seen some comments that have sympathy towards Christy and Jenny for what they went through working with Dan Schneider, which I agree, but I don't think they are 100% innocent because they knew Dan was writing inappropriate scenes that includes minors, and they didn't speak out about it until now. Next thing I want to talk about is on-air dares. I remember watching that and Fear Factor as a kid and didn't think much of it, but now looking back as an adult, they were literally between the ages of 12 to 16. This is such a wild concept when you really think about it, like replacing Fear Factor but with kids. I felt so uncomfortable when Brian Hearn explained one dare he had to do, which was being covered in peanut butter and laying on the ground for dogs to lick it off of him. I agree with him when he said it felt like a weird fantasy and it felt inappropriate, because why would they write that into the show? And I also looked up a couple more dares that happened on the show because it was just really crazy to me that they did this. But Chelsea Brummett, who was 16 at the time, had to drink a truck driver's bathwater. Disgusting. And then Kyle, he had to sing the national anthem with a diaper on. Why did he have to wear a diaper? Why couldn't he just sing it? Jamie Lynn Spears had to drink a gallon of human sweat. I don't know how they did that. And someone had to shave the legs of their principal. And now, thinking about that clip of Dan saying if the kids are sassy, he could put them in any situation he wants.
At the end of the day, I love it when the cast gets sassy with me because I get to write all the scripts with some very talented writers, but I can put them in any horrible predicament I choose.
That's like so terrifying. I saw a comment that said, why didn't they just not do the dares? But it's not that easy to do. I think a couple factors play into it. One, we know Dan was verbally abusive on set. This was the same man that threw a fit because a 13-year-old had a birthday party. I feel like he would target any kid who doesn't do as he says. And two, more than likely, child actors are the main source of income for their family, so they felt pressure to not get fired over any reason. For example, Brian said this was his family's ticket out of poverty, and it put pressure on him to not mess up. The last person I want to talk about is Dan Schneider. I want to focus on his creepy behavior with Amanda Bynes. It's crazy that the kids picked up on how weird it was for Dan to be alone with Amanda for hours on set, and he would isolate her from the rest of the cast. It was known around the set that Amanda would give Dan neck massages, and that's concerning because Christy said Dan would play pornography on his computer all the time and would bribe them to give him a neck massage. That's so gross to think about. And then also remembering that he wrote the scene where Amanda and him were in a hot tub. Amanda wanted to get away from Nickelodeon and become an adult, which, by the way, she was 16 at the time. Dan essentially created the show What I Like About You for Amanda so she could play a more mature role, and around the same time, Amanda was not getting along with her parents. And I think it's very predatory of Dan to let Amanda spend the night at his house when she would run away from home. He also tried to get her emancipated, and I know for a fact Dan was telling her everything she wanted to hear because that's what groomers do. He knew Amanda wanted her independence and to be treated like an adult, which is normal at that age, but Dan used that as an advantage to keep her close to him because, like I said, that's what groomers do. And honestly, there's not a big difference between Dan Schneider and Brian Peck. They both manipulated kids to trust them and their home as a safe haven. The only difference is we know Drake's story, but not all of Amanda's story. The whole thing is just disturbing and really sad. I feel like Quiet on Set is a perfect name for the docuseries because not only were the kids silenced, but the adults and parents kept quiet too. I'm actually planning another video where I compile scenes from Nickelodeon that are uncomfortable and have adult innuendos that a lot of people like myself as a kid didn't know about. So hopefully I will get that uploaded soon. But until then, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and thank you so much for watching.